The second time was easier. So here I am once again. I've never commented before, but I've gone through this once, never received confirmation either way. Hundreds of dollars in treatment, and a few years later I'm back. Everything began to deteriorate between us during the year, and by early summer, affection had begun to fade, had become less regular, and things had become a touch stale. I assumed she was going through menopause since it was about that time. I attempted to be sympathetic by asking if there was something wrong, but she never mentioned anything. She's becoming less affectionate. We're getting along okay, but there's no contact, no back massages, no hugs, no kisses, no hand holding, no hand on my knee, no hair playing, no snuggling in bed. Touch is my love language, and we worked on it a lot in therapy. When I attempt to embrace her, initiate, or even snuggle on the couch, she pushes away. I let things alone for a time since other areas are doing well. Months go by. This year we're traveling to my home country for Christmas. When I asked her about booking tickets, she informed me that she'd scheduled her Christmas vacation from work for the week following Christmas. Why would she do such a thing? I assumed it was her harsh controlling streak returning, that she was attempting to ruin our vacation, despite the fact that I hadn't seen relatives or friends back home in more than 2 years. What had I done to deserve her behavior? I asked her to reschedule the dates. She claims she can't. I ask her to work from there instead. She grudgingly agrees, despite the fact that it isn't an issue. I make reservations for tickets. We received a late invitation to a dinner party, which struck me as weird. Why had we been left out until a couple of days before? I understand now that she knew, but thought I'd refuse with such short notice. We go and everything is fine. Excellent people, good food, and wonderful discussion. By midnight, half of the guests had left, but a few of us remained, drinking and conversing at the table. While speaking with a few folks, I peek across to my wife. I couldn't believe it. I said nothing, simply observed while keeping focused in the discussion I was having. I died on the inside, but it was different this time. My sensations just turned off. I felt nothing. Oh, so this is what's going on. I understand it now. I thought everything came into place. This person and one of my wife's closest friends, who is rather narcissistic, were having troubles, and earlier in the year, my wife was helping, advising, and consoling this guy through text messages. Would you think I felt relieved? They were so inebriated that they forgot I wasn't drinking. If they behave like that while I'm across the table from them, what happens when I'm not there? When I began paying more attention, I saw that he was captivated. When we came home, she reprimanded me for spoiling the evening by departing late, after 2 a.m., gave me the cold shoulder, and went to sleep in a huff. So there's no change there. She had no idea of traveling for Christmas. She wants to spend it with AP, and I'm sure something else will come up between now and then that will prevent her from traveling. She's already complained about the poor internet connection out there. Fortunately, everything worked well that night. I slept well. Good time last night. Although folks were a little drunk there at the end, I believe AP was hitting on you, I said the following day. No, he wasn't. Sure he was. At one point he was caressing your back and everything. She simply gazed at me. Not in a or disappointed manner, but in a oh sort of way. I paused for around 10 seconds before changing the topic. That was all I needed to make my choice. She didn't say anything more about it. Later that week, she added that she ran into AP in town when he was out on a date, but he begged her not to tell anybody, so I can't say anything. Sure thing. D-Day is coming up next week. I don't need this shambles anymore. I had no evidence the first time, just huge disrespect, lies, and gaslighting from her. But I gave it a go since I was codependent and felt we could be mended. We made terrific progress for almost 1.5 years before things began to slip again. This time, I have enough knowledge, insight, and self-respect to complete the task at hand. I'm not even angry. More than everything else, I'm relieved. I'm pleased that my intuition is functioning, relieved that I'm not as damaged as I thought I was, relieved that I'm not the untrustworthy, broken, unlovable, as suggested by her lack of compassion, person she painted me as. I understand now. It is now time to move forward. Update. So first and foremost, thank you everyone for your insight and support over the last many months. I really appreciate the encouraging comments I've gotten in response to my writing. My divorce has been finalized, and I have acquired a new house, which I moved into just last week. I'm still a mess as a result of everything. Although the divorce was reasonably uncomplicated, the couple had to live together for many months while the banks sorted out mortgages and other paperwork. She acquired half of the property that I owned. I didn't fight it, despite the fact that it was my ideal location. I just didn't have the energy to fight it. I had stopped caring about fixing things, so we went through our usual pattern of watching the same TV shows, eating dinner together, and talking about our days. Essentially nothing had changed from the previous 6 months, except that I had stopped caring about fixing things. While everything was going well, she continued to poke fun at me about foolish things. Even in normal conversation, she would poke fun at me, making underhanded remarks, and other such petty things. It didn't bother me in any way, and it just served to reinforce that I was making the right decision. The next day, I called my in-laws and apologized for how things had ended up between us. They were unaware of the circumstances and expressed my gratitude for being a part of the family for all these years. They were all extremely supportive and expressed their determination that we would continue to communicate despite the separation. Fortunately, our common friends, who I had anticipated to back her, stayed out of the fray and have been quite supportive of me throughout the process, which has been wonderful. When I returned to pick up the rest of my items and return the keys, she didn't seem to recognize me at first. She most likely had a better financial deal, but I'm pleased with the outcome since I received the majority of what I needed. I took a few days off work to reflect on the situation and decide how to continue at a leisurely pace, which turned out to be a fantastic decision. I wept a few of times during the course of the weekend, but I was surprised there weren't more tears shed. Despite the fact that I'm beginning to feel lonely, I'm not planning on dating or doing anything else for a long time. I just need to take some time to myself and focus on my weaknesses. I've planned numerous appointments with my therapist over the next several months in the hopes of getting back on track more rapidly than I have been. While it may seem unusual, the fact that I had such a difficult time figuring things out last summer is a blessing in disguise, since I believe I accomplished a significant amount of grief processing at that time. To be sure, it's still coming at me in waves of melancholy and ups and downs, but it's not quite so horrible as I had anticipated, and it's certainly not on par with what I was going through last summer and fall. So far, our toddler seems to be assimilating all of the information. I'm sorry for my ex-troubles, girlfriends, and I hope she will be all right and will be able to move on, maybe with the help of a therapist or something. I'm scared she'll just stuff everything down her throat and blame me for everything, which will be detrimental to both of us in the long run. Consequently, for the time being, I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. Let's hope that things will get better from here. The last few years have been terrible with COVID and everything too.